And I thought, I have experienced grief so much in my life. What could this possibly be like? It was the worst experience, and it has been the worst pain of my life. I knew my husband. I was married for 36 years, together with my husband, 36 years, married for 32. And I think about, I knew him, he knew me better and longer than my parents did. He helped teach me everything. He helped guide me. He was older than me, so he was a mentor, a coach, somebody I really looked up to, somebody I admired, even though he had nothing when I first met him. My mother always told me, he's going to be special one day. You're going to see. And I believe that. And so we worked really hard, and, all of my confidence came from him, who I was as a person. I recall when I was young, I have a very famous story that I tell in the book, which was part of my being, which was when I was 18 and we were starting our company. He was, 38 or 36. And he told people, one day, there'll be the mall without walls. We'll start a company where people can go online and buy things. And we used to go tell people that city to city, and people look at us like we were crazy. Nobody believed in the internet back then. It was called the World Wide Web, and it hardly existed. It was mostly informational. And he'd go and, he'd tell 5 or 6 people in a meeting room what we were about. And they would look at us like we were crazy. And after the meeting, he would be like, what a great meeting, huh? And I would be like, well, they didn't really look the same way that you look. They don't seem as excited as we do. And he said to me, what do you think? What do you believe? And he said, do you believe that it's going to happen, that it's going to happen for us, that it's going to happen for the internet? And I said, of course. He said, well, then great. You do it tomorrow. You talk about it at the meeting tomorrow. And I thought, well, I can't do that. I'm 18. I don't know how to speak. I'm not good like you are. You're good at that. And he's like, no. If you believe, you'll do it. And we drove to San Antonio, and I got up there, and there was like 10 people in the room, David. And I said, hi, my name is Loren Ashley at the time. And I fainted on the floor. I just passed out. I was so nervous, so afraid to speak publicly. And I, came around after a couple minutes, and I remember everybody fanning me below me, going, wake up, wake up. And he looked at me and he said, get up. You were great. It was hot in the room and anybody would have passed out. You'll be great tomorrow in Houston. And I thought, he didn't get in the car and say, get in the car and drive. He didn't get in the car and say, you know what, you're better at not speaking. You're right. You're not a good speaker. He said, you're a great speaker. It was against you. It was hot in the room. It's a hot day in San Antonio. You'll be great tomorrow. Try it again, Loren. You're a great female speaker. Do it again. In fact, you're the best speaker I've ever listened to. So I did it again. And the second time, of course, it wasn't any better than the first. But as I did it again over years, it became great. Like everything we do, right? And so he instilled that confidence in me. And I think when I lost him, I lost me. For a very long, and it's only been 2 years, but I think the first year was just so heartbreaking because I didn't just lose him. I thought I lost myself. And then somebody had showed me a video of a documentary they were making about our family, and showed me a video of something that was my daughter talking about me. And they asked her how it's been since she lost her father. And she said, I didn't just lose my father. I lost my mom too. Broke me. And you understand, right? As somebody who's lost somebody so important to you, for the first time in my life, I'm the one who worries about everybody. I'm the one who makes sure everybody around us is okay. Make sure the kids are okay. I have 3 grandkids are okay. Make sure everybody's great. But for the first time in my life, I couldn't check on her. I couldn't check on anybody. I couldn't do anything but focus on trying to get up in the morning and surviving, because I felt more broken than I'd ever felt in any loss I had ever experienced. It was heartbreaking.
You're sharing these stories, and these stories and memories of when we lose someone, to me, they transcend time and space in a sense that that's the one thing we can carry with us. But then some people aren't as responsive to these stories, maybe not yet or ever. Maybe the stories make them too sad. And to me, when you telling it, for me, from an outside perspective, it's very inspirational. It seemed his advice that he's given you years ago is still applying to him while he's not even here. So when you share these stories and when you think of these memories that are still applying to your life today, how does that make you feel?
Oh, I feel so blessed. I feel so grateful that I had it. And so I think that grief is a form of love. And if you've loved a lot, you grieve a lot. And I've gotten used to that. I've accepted my relationship with grief. And I've asked God to make this be the last time I have to experience grief in this lifetime, because you don't want to ever deal with it with your own children. But you do the best you can, right? And I think that, when you realize that your relationship with grief is new because you've never been taught it before, right? It's like, I heard you talk about it in one of your podcasts, how we're not prepared for it. We don't talk about it, right? Nobody ever prepares you to lose your dad, do they? Or your mom or your family. They just don't. You just have to go through it. And I don't necessarily agree with that process, but it's what we've been given. And so I will do my best to live the very best life I can in the way he taught me to be. And I feel really blessed to have had someone love me like that, to instill those type of beliefs in myself. It makes it sometimes harder, but you keep going and you remind yourself that there's also these signs you get when they're not there. I'm sure you had your dad give you signs all along the way that you were doing the right thing when he wasn't here. That's important.
And it is important. And it sucks. It sucks. And it's interesting to me, when you bring that point up. Obviously I have a podcast that talks about death, and I believe in the importance. But even being someone who, this is what I do, and this is what you do, and you don't have a podcast because you're going through it. There's only so much preparation you can have. Like, you're never going to be fully prepped for what can happen. But I just want to let you know, I know I don't know you, you don't know me, but by you doing this, it's extrapolating to so many other people. And I wanted to get to as many ears as possible, because a lot of people just push it to the side because, I'm not grieving right now, this doesn't apply to me. But to me, that's madness, excuse my French.
You're right.
Because it literally, what else applies to everyone more than death? And
nothing.
I think the more we push it away, I'm not saying, put sugar in your coffee, let's talk about death every morning. But at the same time, it's just like the acknowledgement, because there is this shock value. And, the one thing I can find, the camaraderie of your experience and mine, is the shock value with my dad just waking up one day, going to the World Trade Center, gone. And then your husband on vacation is gone without any preparation.
No notice. No notice.
And it doesn't, I don't know. I don't think there's a what's better question here, but it's how do you continue life with that shock value? You know what I mean? Because there is a time period where you just have to adjust to the initial shock. Yep.
I think for me, it's that I felt really my purpose again when I went back to work. When I went back to work and what he and I had done for 30 years, we had just celebrated our 30th convention of our company, a milestone that we both knew and had a conversation about, honestly, at our home in Connecticut. We sat at the table, and I remember as if it was yesterday, him looking across the table and saying, do whatever you want to do. Make it the biggest celebration. I'm not sure we'll ever see another 30th together. And I remember thinking, you're right. And, we spoke in front of thousands of people. As we grew in our company, there was no longer 5 or 7 people in the room. We spoke for 18,000, 20,000, and for days. And we wouldn't see each other for 2 weeks before each event, because we would see each other in the same house at dinner and in bedtime. But during the day, we both work independently. And we would both come together right before our conferences and say, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? And, I would tell him, I'm always talking about the same 3 things that we all have in common. And he would say the same 3 things: time, because we all want time, more time; love, we all want to be loved; and we all have something else in common, which is death. We're all going to die. Everybody wants to go to heaven, but nobody wants to die to get there.